Welcome back to the program, everybody. Welcome back to another show. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Welcome back to another show. Welcome back to another episode. Good morning or good afternoon to all of my viewers, listeners, and Soul Tribe family. The name of this program is called It's a Conspiracy, But It Ain't No Theory. It's a Conspiracy, But It Ain't No Theory is a non-profit social service agency, suicide prevention campaign, servicing the needs of families and foster children at risk. Lending my voice to help raise awareness by soft publishing a book trilogy called Lucy's Lair. Lucy's Lair is a graphic novel based on true events following my life as a freelance artist. This program is intended to help encourage, heal, and empower survivors of cancel culture and rape culture, providing free information and evidence regarding child abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, electronic harassment, gang-stalking, conspiracy, and true organized hate crimes against humanity, collective and covert. Your company can help by providing funds in a grant or by donating goods and services as I continue delivering this information and evidence to the public and advocating for foster children in need. Thank you in advance for all of your support. On today's episode, I am going to be discussing gang-stalking, occult ritual stalking, hypersimulation theory, covert psychological operations, black ops, plus surviving the New World Disorder, surviving the New World War, surviving manufactured chaos, surviving manufactured karma spelled with a C, surviving white genocide, and surviving the electronic targeting Holocaust. My name is Adrienne Alese. I'm the author and creator of a book trilogy called Lucy's Lair, Part 1, 2, and now 3. Lucy's Lair is a book trilogy reflecting my life as a survivor of rape culture, child sex trafficking, and psychological gas chambers. On this program, I advocate for women's rights, basic human rights, and the rights of those disabled. I also advocate on behalf of the foster children in the CPS system, orphans, single mothers, foster mothers, and those less fortunate. Targeted individuals or trafficked victims are predominantly women. 65 to 70% of targeted individuals are white American women or those who identify as such. This makes gang stalking an illegal operation or hate crime that is sexually and politically motivated towards American women and their children. This program is a dedication to the targeted individual community. The objective of the opposition or the counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO 2.0, is to subvert all of the target's potentiality, to terminate and to punish all supporters and sympathizers, so there will not be any, to round down the target's output and audience, to marginalize the target, to eliminate connections and networking ability. All right, so I am going to just be picking up right where I left off on the last episode on the YouTube channel. I was briefly going over a synthetic voice of God technology by Omniscience. How the community is recruited to participate in this gang stalking or ritual occult stalking. And so one of the covert harassment methods employed by the FBI is the occult ritual stalking or the occult ritual magic, so to speak. And I did want to mention one thing before I go any further. This video is going to be very messy. I have been warring with the technological device since after I left the dentist yesterday, and I tried to do this video yesterday. I'm having so many technical difficulties, so bear with me if it sounds messy or if it's all over the place. It's because I have to do this very carelessly. If I care too much, they'll intercept, corrupt the data, damage the video, and then I'll get mad because I spent all that time working so hard. So just bear with me and try to hang in there as I work my way through this. Thank you so much for your patience and cooperation. Thanks to everybody who has tipped and donated. Thanks to everybody who has taken the time to watch these videos, as it does help to raise the global awareness level. The approach that the FBI takes to dealing with terrorism is a trauma-based approach, an attrition bottom-up approach. And so on the last YouTube channel, on the last show, I went over how it's using social media, it's abusing social media and tech devices in order to create the set, to set the stage with a crew. And this is all trauma-based mind control and cult mind control. And this is sexual exploitation and trafficking in a nutshell. This is the real reason, because of the sexual exploitation, for the faulty mental health diagnosis. And so it's using tech devices to sexually exploit and then to mock that trauma after being trafficked, after being exploited. That's what trafficking is. And so the devices end up doing all of the heavy lifting for the government, for the FBI, and for their counterproliferation targeting programs like eugenics and Depop. So in any case, it's using the devices to sexually exploit the victim, and then it's trafficking the victim into the psych ward and having the victim diagnosed or misdiagnosed with a faulty mental health diagnosis. And then some of this is being done. For the most part, this is being done. People participating in this ritual are participating in this. Specifically this last time, this month, this time around, to simulate the feeling of being rejected by God. The entire community is needed for this. I was getting ready to go see the dentist for a cleaning and for some routine standard dental work. And before I even left, as this month, this new July 1st rolled in, I was already being profiled, and my character flaws were being exploited by these gang stalkers. And so it wants to simulate the feeling of being rejected for having a tooth gap, an imperfection in my teeth. All right, so picking up right where I left off, I was reviewing how the FBI was likely to intercept, and I was going over how somebody called. And I was actually wrong. The lady just was unable to see me at that time. So it actually did say that the appointment was canceled and then rescheduled because they apparently do not do the procedure at that time or at that early in the morning. But that's not what was said when I was there. That was not the information. So that should have been said. Obviously, this was done on purpose so they can stage a synthetic psychological collapse. But before they stage the actual breakdown or the meltdown, or before they provoke the literal domestic violence war, the domestic dispute, the domestic terrorism, before they incite that or provoke that war within the relationship, they first have to lay the foundation. And there is a heavy emphasis on the build up. So there is a build up, so to speak, using positive reinforcements, and this is done to brainwash the victim, to build it up, and then to break it down. So before the meltdown, before the honeypot comes out, he gets caught checking her out, saying, damn, she's fine. Before I slap him for that, or we start fighting for that, before all of that even occurs, it's impossible for that to even occur without the buildup. So before all of that, there's all of this buildup using risk, reward, behavioral, dark behavioral science, and positive reinforcements. So this is all done using harassment methods, obsessive repetition, and dark psychology. This is all done using technology, and it is only possible because of the devices in our hands. It is only possible. So before the meltdown, before the synthetic psychological collapse, all of this chaos is needed to manufacture the malfunction. The idea is to try to simulate the feeling of being rejected. So this is the psychological war. This is the dark psychology that the FBI is going to go ahead and use this as a window of opportunity and intercept, so they can hoover, so they can arrange a mind-controlled misfortune, so they can put these intrusive thoughts in our minds that cause us to feel a certain type of way. Let's say insecure. It's not real insecurity. It was programmed in order to depop. This is essential for depop. All right, so a few things to note going forward. One of the things I wanted to mention is the voice to skull. Voice to skull is described as a wireless form of electronic harassment and mental torture. Under this method, the perpetrators use low or high frequency voices and noises to harass an individual. It can also help the perpetrators to read the mind of the individual as well as track their movements. It is also used to manipulate the target's speech and emotions, steal their identity, and confuse them. So, in order to stage a synthetic psychological collapse, it needs to simulate these feelings. So, it simulates fake voices. And it does this not just using tech devices, but also within the PSYOP. It will be as easy and as simple as a group of people, as many as 2 or more, standing off to the side, talking, and in this case, specifically laughing, to mimic that schizophrenic hallucination. So if you listen to the video real closely, you'll hear these, quote, voices that I'm referring to and how this is manufactured. So you can hear them laughing really loud.
Yeah, she had to move it to the 23rd because the one today was scheduled in the wrong place. Yeah, she had to move it to the 23rd because the one today was scheduled in the wrong place.
So would that have been for today's appointment?
Yeah.
That's what I assumed. Okay, so today's appointment was canceled then.
Yeah, because at the time, she doesn't do that type of cleaning at this time of day.
Okay, so there will be no appointment for today?
Yeah, there's nothing else available today, unfortunately.
All right, perfect. Is there any way I can reschedule that one for the 23rd at 1?
Please, if we have it available, let's see. are scheduled at 1 on the 23rd.
Okay, yeah, I would like to put it for like the earliest appointment in the morning, please.
On Thursday, August 14th, we have an 8:15.
That should do it. Thank you.
Do you want me to print out a reminder?
Oh, sure. Because people who genuinely love themselves, people who genuinely love their lives, are a lot harder to depop. So the mind control and the brainwashing, the cold mind control, all of the sexual exploitation and every other tool and weapon is used in order to depop. Essentially, that's the idea here. To stage a faulty mental health diagnosis, to discredit what it is that I'm saying and experiencing. To stage a synthetic psychological collapse, that is the goal. That is what it is currently working on. That is what the FBI is currently working on. And more specifically, to try to simulate the feeling of being rejected for having a tooth gap. And so I did notice that all the honeypots were standing off to the side of the street, on the side as in a side hoe. And I did notice that they were working out, and they did happen to all be wearing a black pair of short shorts, which, by the way, I don't have a lot of clothing, so I would have put something else on, but I just didn't have it. Anyways, it's mocking me. It's mocking what I'm wearing. It's mocking my clothes. It's mocking my tattoos with all the bumper stickers and dumb stuff like that. It uses its clothing to mock me. So these are like mockingbirds. And so all of this mocking is needed to stage a synthetic, faulty mental health diagnosis. It is a synthetic voice of God technology by omniscience. So it has to perpetually simulate the feeling of being aggressively rejected by God. It uses community recruits to do this. It's impossible to simulate this feeling otherwise. And then it synchronizes all of that with an electronic harassment attack. So this has to be done in coordinated, synchronized fashion in order to maximize effectiveness. So that's to increase stress. So you'll die of something seemingly normal like cancer or a heart attack or something else. Only God knows. And to facilitate an electronic targeting holocaust. And so it uses colors like gray and blue to simulate feelings of depression. And so this is all needed. And it harasses using the psychology or the dark psychology of colors. Because it psyche profiles, it knows our deepest thought, and then it weaponizes that. So it profiles that secret or that deepest thought or that insecurity or fear. Anytime that trauma is attached to anything, but let's just say a color, it becomes an anchor for trauma-based mind control. So that's how it's anchoring for torture. In order to break the DNA down on a cellular, molecular level, in order to cause a heart failure or an anxiety disorder, depression, bipolar personality disorder, it has to mimic all of these. It has to simulate all of these. And it's using directed conversation to simulate schizophrenic hallucinations. So directed conversation is an entire psyche profiling psyop in and of itself. All right, so like I was saying with the occult and the trauma-based mind control. All right, and so it's attaching trauma to colors, and then it uses that color to harass, and that color becomes like an extremely low frequency or death ray. So because it has to simulate a synthetic faulty mental illness diagnosis, like bipolar personality disorder, it has to lay the foundation for this to occur. I was wondering why it always likes to use black and white colors, blue and yellow, and it'll flash them intermittently. And so it'll be black, white, black, white, black, white, or blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow. And this is to fabricate a faulty mental illness like bipolar personality disorder. It does this using obsessive repetition. So it's all day, every day, back and forth, back and forth. So you'll have a split personality. So like I was saying, it does all of this for a thrill. A lot of these gang stalkers are doing it for sex, drugs, there's always an incentive. The government has to figure out how to control them. And so I'll sit down to do a show, and the whole video will go missing after a day like today. It's so that they can try to conceal their crimes, their hate crimes, collective and covert, against humanity. So that's obviously why. So in any case, because it suffers from a shared delusion, it hears my channel and it goes all psychotic. Let's just think about it for a second. Stalking is psychotic behavior. To think that that is somebody suffering from a delusion is straight up schizophrenic when the evidence proves otherwise. So another interesting thing to note, all of these girls are wearing short black shorts. This cannot be a coincidence. If it is a coincidence, then this is coincidence number 4.7 trillion. So obviously all of this has to be done. Few things to note going forward. This all has to be done using plausible deniability. It cannot be obvious that this is taking place. It has to be done covertly, in a way that only the target would be able to know and nobody else around. And it's a shared delusion. Like I've been saying in the last couple or few shows I've done, it's a shared delusion. They share the same mental illness. And that's why it's a cult. Understand that the enemy is secretly jealous and wants to see you suffer for making it, quote, feel that way. It's delusional. Nobody makes you feel anything. Nobody makes you jealous. That's crazy. You're crazy. So, one of the things that I did want to mention, though, is how a lot of the times this is done for entertainment. And like I've already said, thrills. This is why they are called adrenaline junkies, adrenochrome junkies. Obviously, this is a very mocking, discriminatory, abusive harassment method. When it's the entire community that is involved, it's very easy to simulate that feeling of being rejected by God. This is impossible for one person alone to simulate that feeling, which is why this is so evil. So if it's all for laughs, and I have literally seen them do this all for laughs, which is what this video essentially is. They were all mocking and laughing and trying to simulate the feeling of being rejected by God. This is a community effort, by the way. One person alone is incapable of making another feel this way. A single individual is not enough of a power source to simulate the feeling of being rejected by God. It's simply not enough. It's ineffective otherwise. So, if it's all for laughs, what are they doing paying to go to these comedy clubs for? What are they idolizing comedians in Hollywood for? If it's all for laughs because my life is just so funny and I'm just so hysterical, why aren't they lining up at my front door and giving me their money and then just watching the show for the entertainment and the comedic relief that I provide? Obviously, it is lying. Okay, so like I recently seen a movie with Robert De Niro. And it was trying to say something to the effect of having political support. Nuh-uh. I don't have any political sponsors. It's the other way around. This is how I know they're so full of it. They do this double speak, and when it talks, it means a lot of the times, more often than not, the opposite of what it is saying. So, for instance, it'll put a female in a movie when it's really referring to a male. Or it'll put a male in a movie when the victim or the target is actually a female. So it does this in different ways. It has different methods for this approach, but it's the same approach. It's the same method. So like I've already said, technology is used to exploit the mental health, to degrade the mental health of the victim. So that way, like, for instance, let's say when I go to do this show and I sit down to record all of this for evidence, it's constantly intercepting the device and damaging the recording so that way it can ditch the evidence of this hate crime. So it's always sending people out here to harass maliciously, to simulate the feeling of being rejected by God. This is the purpose. This is done so that it can stage a synthetic, faulty, fabricated mental illness, and so that it can set the stage for ritual sacrifice, so it can simulate or stage a synthetic suicide programming. And so this is the MK Ultra. So this is the truth. This is everything else that you see in Hollywood is a cover. And this is what it's working so hard to conceal. So MK Ultra, this technology has interacted with quite a large amount of people. However, it is almost always misidentified as other sources. And so, directed energy weapon cover stories. So, directed energy weapon cover stories. Number one, mental illness as an electronic harassment cover story. So, all of this electronic harassment is done on purpose, not only to damage and destroy the evidence of the hate crime, these hate rituals, but also to conceal directed energy crimes and to further exploit. So, like I've already said, the device is hacked and then malware is installed onto the device. There's evidence of that. So that's not a schizophrenic hallucination or a delusion by any stretch of the measure. Hackers are watching you. Your Apple iPhone connection has been hacked and someone is watching on you. Your Apple iPhone has been hacked. All operations on your device are being tracked by the hacker. Immediate action is required. So all of this is done so that it can stage a synthetic faulty mental health illness or diagnosis, so it can alienate and isolate the victim away from family and supporters. So while these rituals are occurring, while all of this is happening, nobody will help. Everybody will be too afraid and or alienated due to psychological war, too much fighting. And all of this warring and all of this fighting was incited by the enemy, by the FBI in the first place. And then ultimately, this is to stage a synthetic suicide programming. So this is a death cult. Unfortunately, it's highly unfortunate that people like myself have to deal with this. And these harassment methods used by this FBI's COINTELPRO Operation Gladio, this covert community recruits, this army, this stay-behind army. The reason why this is needed, this is essential to Depop, because it simulates the feeling of being rejected by God. And the reason why it simulates the feeling of being rejected by God is so it can stage a synthetic suicide programming. And the real cause of the mental illness is the sexual exploitation that is being done virtually. The electronic harassment and the electronic holocaust as well. These are the real reasons behind the so-called mental illness. So all of the harassment, it is the real reason for the so-called bipolar personality disorder or whatever mental illness that it is going to try to lie and say. But as you can clearly see, the phone was hacked. That's not a delusion. That cannot be a delusion. I did not hack my own phone. Okay, I have the evidence. It's been provided for the YouTube channel. Not only has it been hacked, but it also states that the device is being tracked by the hacker. It is still currently to this day. And the idea is to harass the victim and abuse it to death, to stage a synthetic suicide programming. It's highly unfortunate. And the real reason why these targets end up killing themselves is because they were sexually exploited via technology, virtually. And the perpetrators are the ones doing all of the harassment, the ones that exploited the victim virtually using technology, the ones that exploited myself, sexually exploited me, are the ones that are making a profit. These are traffickers. This is all trafficking. Anybody involved in this, I mean, ultimately, it's probably going to commit suicide, really. It'll end up on drugs because it won't be able to cope. And so it's been 2 days after that psychological operation where they simulated the feeling of being rejected by God, and they used the entire community to do this. So it's been 2 days after that where it's fighting with me using the technological device to corrupt the data. So this video should have been done a long time ago. If this video is messy or all over the place, this is why. The reason why it is doing this is to facilitate an electronic targeting holocaust, but also to conceal directed energy crimes. So pretty much everything that you see in the media is a lie. Everybody already knows. I recently covered Chapter 18, Overview of Harassment Methods Used by FBI's COINTELPRO, Operation Gladio, Covert Community Recruits and Stay Behind Armies, or Instruction Manual for Community Gang Stalkers. I reviewed Part 1, General, and operations in general are of the, quote, active surveillance type. This includes hacking the devices, a data breach, spying, domestic espionage, domestic servitude, phishing, and sexual exploitation, and surveillance essentially is the foundation. So hacking the devices needed for this type of surveillance. Part 2 is the surveillance. Surveillance is the foundation of all operations, psychological operations. So the devices have to be hacked in order to surveil, illegally surveil. Three are the intercepts. Four is the physical sabotage, so that would be like beating of a slave, which is what I've provided for evidence on my channel. The perpetrators brainwash children because they're easy to manipulate. So they hack the device, they corrupt it with malware, they brainwash everybody. But the children are easy to recruit covertly. This is all being done covertly using technology because the children they don't have a fully developed conscience, and so they're easy to manipulate. Number 5 is sabotaging the target's reputation and all that goes with it, such as earning the ability to earn a living, business and personal relationships. This is special operations. So this is all black science projects. 6 is discrediting the target. I recently reviewed that, as well as 7, which is the trade-related punishment, which is what the police do frequently, and also what you will witness in the video that I just provided at the dentist for evidence that they're currently working on trying to corrupt. Number 8 is the target's home, and this week coming up on this next week's program, I'm going to be covering Part 9. which is going to be other tactics. So, some things to note. In order to mind control a faulty mental health disorder, it has to manufacture or simulate the desired effect. So, methods are employed in order to enhance the synthetic mental illness. For example, up and down, back and forth, bottom, top, black and white, blue and yellow, flashing back and forth. And they'll do a lot of old people versus young people and so on and so forth. And this is done to enhance a mock bipolar personality disorder. So when we die, no one will care, because we're just another crazy homeless bum. That is what they'll be brainwashed into believing. And so they use dark psychology by attaching trauma to colors, but this is just one example. They do this to everything. They do it to cars. They do it to bikes. They do it to people, unfortunately, children, babies, animals, dogs, everything, you name it. So by attaching trauma to a color or to a person, place, or thing, for example, so in any case, like I was saying, colors, when attached to trauma, they carry that frequency, that extremely low frequency. And these colors are being demonized. They're being used to practice demonology. And that is done so that they can be used as a weapon by these harassers to profile and war against our minds. And so a few things to note, just right from the top, right off the riff, right off the bat, I realized after watching this video reel as many times as I have now, it's probably been about 5 or 10 times I've been working on this video since yesterday, and I realized that the streets are much cleaner. I see way less hoodoo and voodoo, although it is definitely there. Very, very discreetly, very covertly, it is still there. Mind you, it is 6 o'clock in the morning when these videos were taken. And then later a little later in the morning, but still in the morning. So less of the hoodoo ritual after it was exposed, after the death cult was exposed for their death cult rituals. A lot less of the hoodoo rituals, a lot less of the hoodoo and the voodoo. But it is definitely still there. And so I'm just saying it's not as much because that video that I provided went back all the way to October when I was injured. You have to know that that injury was a part of this program. Okay, that's why it's relevant. That's why I went back to that point. So, interesting thing to note though, while there is still people on the road, on the street, usually, as you can see, for the most part during the video, throughout the reel, it is a lot cleaner. The streets are a lot cleaner. There's a lot less of those little bugs that I was recording, and they are actually people, but they're just gang stalkers that are lost in our system, unfortunately, and they really do need help. And it's very, very unfortunate that the same system that promised to help them is the one that is profiting off of exploiting them. It's very unfortunate. So whenever the phone is glitching because of the malware, I'm not able to record, and it starts harassing, saying that the storage is full, and just starting all of this prompting in order to electronically harass. And so I'm not able to catch it all, unfortunately. I was able to get a tiny little clip of it from yesterday using the tablet. And so that's what I attached here. You can just get a brief idea of how, like, every function on the device is defective. And the same thing for today. So this video is a little bit all over the place. But then they get up here on social media. They use the social media accounts to covertly harass and blackmail. It uses technology to beg for the male partner's attention, sex, love, money, and loyalty to the rape culture. And then it tries to make it appear as if the honeypot working the psyop is divine. Grooming and coercion are not divine. Rape culture is never going to be divine, and I don't have political sponsors because of what Jason chose to do to me. I have political rivals. Now, thanks. It treats the male sexuality as an appetite for food, as you can clearly see. This is extremely corrupt. This corrupts everything about intimacy, really, because eating is not ever going to be as intimate as real sex, but you can see how it goes ahead and just corrupts that by over-sexualizing food. And then it becomes a sexual appetite that is never satisfied.